Ich mache jetzt mein...
Yes, kids, we are live.
Ridiculous beat. Welcome, everybody, to Chaps, Many Cultures. One's driving, one's in a safe place.
I'm not driving. You can see this. I'm physically stopped. let's be good here. Yeah. Thank goodness
So happy
for that.
about it. Thank goodness. And if you're watching us live, that means you're on YouTube or you're on Brett's personal Facebook, because for some reason the technology gods were not with us, and the live broadcast on our Facebook channels for Cultural Mentor and the Culture Mastery will be served with this amazing episode retroactively. So we'll upload it. You're not missing anything. Don't lose your marbles over this. It'll be
actually
all
we
good.
are we are live on Cultural Mentor and Culture Mastery, by the way. It's gone live. We just it just didn't put it up. We're on live. Yeah, we're live. So welcome.
Magic. The gods were with us.
The gods are with us. How is everybody this late rainy afternoon here on the road, dialing in from the road live on location?
Wow.
Undisclosed location. Yes. But but not driving. You might see the odd train go behind me. There will be a train from time to time, I think. Yeah.
So this is not a scavenger hunt, people. You're not guessing. Well, maybe you are guessing. Where in the world is Brett? Where is Waldo? So you will maybe put your guesses in there, because he's been driving all
That's
day.
right. Oh,
he'll be driving even more. And which brought us to the topic of today. Driving abroad is often a little bit different than driving in your homeland. So in your homeland, Brett, people drive wrongly anyway because you drive on the wrong side. Let's just get that out of the way first.
We drive on the left side, which is the right side.
Of course. Of course. I recently saw a world map painted in two colors. And the color scheme identified which countries drive on the right side and which drive on the left side. Turns out you're in the minority. So
very much so.
So, but aside from all that nonsense, driving on the left side and the right side could be something that will affect how efficiently you operate a motor vehicle or yourself in traffic. But that's not the main point that we wanted to talk about. It appears that depending on where you go in the world, the way people behave behind the wheel can be a little bit different. What has been your experience, Brett?
So there's been a few countries I've driven. Now, obviously, my home country of Australia, we're actually people have observed that I'm quite an aggressive driver, and I think that comes from I grew up driving in Sydney, which is very European in its design. Small roads. Before. We have expressways, but small roads where you have to really duck and weave. You have to learn. You have to be very, very quick on your feet or the rubber, depending on what you're driving. So it becomes something of a result of how I was brought up and how I was trained to drive. So that is one aspect. And then there was driving here in the US, where you've got these wonderful big open roads and highways where you can just cruise along and almost kind of like zone out and cover thousands of miles without ever getting off, unless it's for gas. But you can just kind of the road system here. Obviously, that highway system that was built here is just a great way for getting people around this country. And then, of course, I went back to Poland, and then I reverted back to these little backcountry roads, which I thought were fantastic. Great, and there was also a kind of a less a closer interaction with traffic in Poland.
Mm-hmm.
People travel a lot closer to each other, and so I learned that you had to go back to my original type of mentality, where I had to be quick on my feet, quick thinking, confident, so that you didn't hold people up, and sometimes that can cause accidents in and of itself. So there, and where else have I driven? I've driven, in Italy. Of course, Italy was great. The what they say about Italian drivers is true.
What is it they say about Italian drivers? I'm curious.
Well, no. It's just that it's very wild. I mean, even the very first time we got in the rental car and we came to a roundabout, which I'm very comfortable with, right? But my wife, who was a passenger, said, "Okay, that's it. We're going to die." And we hadn't even left the airport because it was just like all for one and one for all. And then that to me, that was comfortable. I enjoyed it. I love the kind of aggressiveness and almost craziness of the style. And then also, I guess, not myself, but I did experience driving with a Westerner driving in China, who had spent a lot of years there and eventually got their driver's license. And of course, that's another experience too, where it is just absolute organized chaos, accompanied by a whole bunch of horn blowing that doesn't really mean that people are being aggressive. It's just a polite way to tell people I'm here,
right?
And I'm trying to squeeze in, and if I can get half an inch in front of your bumper, then I've got the right of way, and nobody gets upset.
Right.
Something that would happen here in the US if you tried to squeeze your way in. So it's quite these observations have been interesting to me over the years.
And I agree, they've been interesting to me as well, and I try to make sense of it and put it in our cultural comparison baskets, and somehow I have not yet succeeded. So and this is, maybe there is some research out there and I'm just not aware of it. So if you know about this, place it in the comments. I'd be very curious. Also, as you're watching this, not if, but as you're watching this, maybe not live, but the recording, put in the country in which driving was easiest for you or was the most challenging, or share a story of some weird driving experience you may have had abroad. We would love to hear about this, and maybe we can talk about this face to face in an episode. What struck me was I come from a country where driving is, yes, also a bit aggressive, maybe not as well perceived as aggressive as it would be in other countries. I'm from Germany, as most of you know. And in Germany, there's a stereotype that Germans drive fast, which can be true. Not every German is a race car driver, and not every German road will allow you to go that fast. However, we do have stretches of our roadway system, the Autobahn, that is sometimes for certain miles or certain stretches of kilometers is unregulated in terms of top speed that you're able to drive there. And that means people will, if their vehicle allows and if traffic allows, go, I don't know, 200 miles per hour, 300 kilometers per hour, if you prefer metrics. I've done that myself, I will admit. And it is exhilarating. It is also a bit dangerous if you don't know how to do it right, which means that if you want to be road legal in many European countries, the way to do that is to go through a more rigorous training than in some other countries where driving licenses or the thumbs up for, or the your permission to operate a motor vehicle may be a little less stringent. And I found that out when my German driving license was transferred into a US license, and I was flabbergasted at how lax the rules were. I thought this was going to involve a test or some sort of bureaucracy. None of that. So they just simply, and this was years ago, they simply just gave me a US license. I'm like, all right, nobody is testing how well I do this. And then she said, well, you come from Germany and we know how you guys teach your drivers and we know you guys drive fast. So we figured It's all right. Maybe I shouldn't name the person at the DMV who gave me that license, because maybe she acted against rules and regulations. I hear it's different now. What I mean to say is I figured out Americans seem to be very relaxed drivers compared to most European countries. They don't seem to live out their aggressions or their, I don't know, their anger on the road. What does Jenny say? Jenny's from Australia. Well,
This is
I'm
my
going to let you
cousin
read it.
Jenny tuning
Your
in. My
So
real
what is
cousin.
Jenny? So read it in Jenny's accent, please.
Yeah. Hi from Australia. No, she doesn't speak like. She's much more refined accent to me. She got the refined side of the family, but I think driving in Vietnam was very scary. You just get in and hope for the best. Yeah, kind of similar to China.
Or Indonesia. Yeah.
Indonesia. Yeah, these are
Thailand.
absolutely another place that I've driven in cars in Indonesia where. Yeah, I mean, even direction of the traffic is optional. It's just whichever way you can get.
And see, here my last night, my daughter, my second daughter is 50 now. So in the US, that means she gets a driving permit. So she took a test, which she passed, and now she can drive a vehicle with an adult in the passenger seat.
Right.
So I took her for a test drive around the neighborhood, and sure enough, I mean, she did really well. And sure enough, there was this gentleman approaching us on his bicycle in our lane.
Yeah.
Which in the United States, that is not legal or is at least frowned upon by fellow motorists. In other countries, nobody would bat an eye at that. And my daughter was like, "What is this guy doing in my lane? What do I do now?" He survived. So did we. Yeah. Now, what I recognize is that North Americans seem to be much more relaxed in their vehicle and less aggressive than most Europeans. I find Europeans to be almost as if getting behind a wheel or a steering wheel in the road gives them permission to live out some of their aggressions or their fantasies of world domination that they're not allowed to do in other social contexts. In the US, that doesn't seem to happen as much. And what I make this mean, and you correct me if you have a different opinion, I think in the US, people have other safety valves to pop up that energy, right? So in the US, there is the Second Amendment to the Constitution, which allows every citizen to bear a firearm. So they go on a shooting range and fire off a gun, or maybe they don't even go to the shooting range. They have other ways of letting off steam. I don't know. How do people let off steam in Australia, Brett? Do they do that in traffic, or do they go out in the outback?
Chase kangaroos.
Chase kangaroos. Is that really what you do? Are you just feeding a stereotype?
Yeah, I'm feeding a stereotype. Absolutely. Yeah. No, we swim a lot. We're close to the ocean. We play a lot of sport. That's how we do it, right? Which I guess can be related to firing guns. I mean, it's called a sport in some circles, and it is a sport. It's an Olympic sport, right? But I think that that's a good point. That's kind of what I noticed in Europe too. Yeah, that's living out fantasies of driving in Le Mans, right? Those kind of things. I mean, and also interesting. I was just thinking about car racing. Car racing in this country is very organized usually around track. You just turn left all day, right?
You mean in the US with NASCAR?
NASCAR, yeah, that kind of thing.
There's other racing events where they have like real circuits, right?
Yeah, but are they as popular as NASCAR? Right? I don't know.
Probably not.
I don't know. But road racing is more the norm in a place like Australia, or
Europe.
That's where you see this kind of road racing. Formula One is a lot of times done on a race track
in Adelaide.
In the streets of cities, right? They can shut down cities. Monaco is like that, through the streets of the cities. It's interesting. No, I think it's just a fascinating insight. I've just kind of always been struck by the way people drive in different countries and how it might reflect the culture, the prevailing culture. Anyway.
Now, when you say that in China and other Asian countries, nobody really gets upset if they just find an inch ahead of you and squeeze themselves in. And in other cultures or other countries, this may be a cause for a debate or worse. Could it
That's a nice
be?
way to put it.
So as I'm trying to basket this into our cultural comparison categories, is it possible that in more collectivist cultures, like many Asian cultures, don't seem to the drivers in those cultures don't seem to feel the need to express their individuality in traffic by invoking their rights, right? Is it okay to say, well, there's many of us and somehow we'll all get to our destination, and if somebody gets in front of me, why should I get upset? Because as long as I'm moving, and we're all in this together. Same would be true for India, right? A country with maddening traffic if you come from Europe. Whereas in more individualistic cultures like North America or Northern Europe, the UK, the Scandinavians, the Germans, where people will be less lenient with those who don't follow the rules of organized traffic, right? So that could be some cultural aspect that plays into that.
Yeah, there's a sense of competition. So competitive, this is a competitive culture here, you know, and you're individually competitive, right? And so if you're, and having just worked yesterday with a Chinese kind of, well, he's been in the US, and he was actually asking me specifically about that. Why do people seem so individually competitive here? It was something that really wasn't even in his realm of understanding of why that would be, when you've got everybody who surely would benefit from, you know, getting to the same place, whether it be driving or whether it be in business, with the same destination in mind. So it was interesting that he observed that, and so that's how it was explained to me in China when I was driving along, where people would explain to me and say, this is all it is. As soon as you can get half an inch in front of somebody's bumper, there's this saying, oh, okay, well done, congratulations, you know. But they will blow their horn at them, but not to say, you got to, you know, they'll just blow their horn and say, don't forget I'm here.
Right.
And then it's politely, they're politely let in.
Same is true, I think, in most Mediterranean cultures. Most Northern Europeans believe that the Mediterranean drivers are being aggressive. I don't think they are. I think the horn honking is the same as in Asia. Is, hey, I'm here. Please take notice of me. My car might be small, and these are narrow roads, but I'm still here. So make sure you don't put a dent in me. I also found that the competitiveness aspect is different in countries like Germany compared to the United States. Sure, you'll find some drivers who want to be first, or whatever way of competition they have in the US. In Germany, it's almost like, especially amongst men, this is more a male thing, to be honest. German male drivers seem to have this macho comparison of egos behind the wheel, and it leads to weird situations where they're racing from red light to red light with no noticeable gain over each other, but they manage to get to the next red light first. I never really understood what that means.
You're in a hurry to stop.
Right. And in the US, at least in the states that I've driven in, and it's been probably 35 of the 50, I never really found that there is this almost murderous competition happening, or it's at least more bearable. What I did find, though, hi from Queensland, awesome.
Hey,
hi back to Queensland. There's a lot of Aussies on here tonight.
Aussies here, yeah. Well, it's that time of the day. They're all awake. See, we
driving. So what I noticed is, in many Europeans, and mainly my fellow country people in Germany, are quick to point at the United States as this one country where everybody's gun crazy and gun happy, and they will defend their Second Amendment rights to carry a weapon, and they will be quick to say, well, you'd have less you'll have less road fatalities. Oh, my says I should be careful talking about women drivers. I didn't talk about women drivers. I talked about male drivers who are bad. I think women are the better drivers, to be honest. They may not be as competitive. So I'll be the first to admit that men are, with their egos, are actually bad behind the wheel. So however you feel about your own driving, it's probably better than mine. So, but the point I'm trying to make is, so Germans are quick to jump to the conclusion that USA, you could solve a lot of your violence problem with all the guns. Take the guns away, which in the US gets you a quick reaction, no matter what side of the political aisle people are from. They say, you mind your own business, and this is our constitutional right. And nope. That's the quick and civil version of that response. In Germany, you could the same emotional response you get is if you ask Germans to accept the speed limit on the Autobahn. They will go nuts on you. Say, what? I'm a free citizen in this country. You're not taking away that liberty. Free driving for free people. It's completely irrational, emotional, similar to the emotional irrational response many Americans will give you to gun laws. Maybe we are not as civilized as we think we are. Maybe we're not as evolved. Maybe we shouldn't be driving. Maybe this whole autopilot thing is a thing of the future. It will make us better human beings.
Maybe. The other observation I'll make, going back to my home country of Australia, I just thought of, is outside policing of driving. And we've had for years, when I first got my license, roadside testing and breathalyzing of random people for no reason at all, no suspicion at all, was something that was instigated. And people, some people rallied against it, but they said, no, well, it's keeping us safe. In general, we're being asked under no suspicion of anything to be pulled over and just tested in case we're drinking. Mm-hmm. And there were, they called them booze buses. They took old public transport buses, turned them into rolling testing stations, and they would just set up on a road and then pull everybody over, and they just get you to blow into a machine, and then that was it. And speed cameras, many speed cameras in Australia.
Oh, right? Same in Europe.
And you get a ticket very, very quickly for doing small amounts over the speed limit. And yet here in the US,
you get pulled over by a cop who says you did this and that many miles per hour, and there's no proof. There's no. It's only the cop's word against yours.
But it's also, if you're, and around Chicago, for example, driving around Chicago, the speed limit mostly on the highways is 55. But if you do 55, you're going to get run over. People do 70 and 75 miles an hour, and the traffic just moves along, and police move along with it. Nobody. There's this kind of it's a strange dichotomy where this is a place,
And I teach most of the expatriates who come to the United States. I teach them the rule of thumb is if you go 10% over the posted speed limit, that is the gray area in which you should be safe. But please don't quote me when you get pulled over for doing exactly that. And Maya is completely right. If you go in too slow in Germany, you will be holding up traffic, and that may get you a fine as well. However, it's gotten more rigid in Germany with the speed limits. They do enforce them. Of course, there are the stretches where you can go as fast as you want, and that's your right as a free citizen. However, wherever there is a speed limit, and you're not adhering to it, then you will pay through the nose to learn that lesson. So they have recognized that there are areas where you need to be more safe and others where it's okay to be less safe, I guess.
Absolutely.
But are you driving back home tonight, Brett, from this undisclosed location?
I'm on my way, and it's raining, and it's going to be I'll just take my time, no problem at all. Big highways, nice leisurely drive, and yes, I will be home tonight.
Will you contemplate your cultural preferences as you do that?
I will observe. I will look around me, and and just otherwise go about my business. I don't know what else I can do. I am what I am.
All right, folks.
All right, man.
Two chaps in many cultures who just pop up in the middle of your day, whatever time of day it is in your world. We would love for you to be a subscriber of our program. If you're on LinkedIn, if you're on YouTube, that's easy. You just hit the subscribe button on Brett's channel, and then you hit the subscribe button on my channel, because we're simulcasting it to both channels. If you're on Facebook and watching this, You may have already liked our page, and if you haven't done so yet, what's keeping you? And finally, make sure you place your comments, your questions, your ideas, your suggestions for future topics in the comment box below. Tell us if you would be the next best great guest on this program, or if you know somebody that we should definitely talk to. We would love to hear that from you. So,
and my included, because my is, you can come on and challenge Christian about his attitudes of women drivers.
uh-oh. Oh, I think I have an appointment on that day.
A driving test.
Yeah, whether we'll test me again, whether I'm still road safe.
Absolutely. All right, man. Thanks again. Thanks, everybody.
Drive safely.
Drive safely. Yes. Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me?
Whoever feels the need to hear that. Yes.
No worries. All right, mate. See ya.
Bye, all.